There is no denying that Milei has Argentina on a fast track to economic recovery. But with more than 50% of the population now sitting under the poverty line, is it going to be enough to give the people of Argentina that desperately need it some financial relief? Yo, welcome back, guys. Glad to have you. You guys know I'm a big fan of Javier Milei. I'm a big libertarian myself, so I really like what he's doing with the country, but I'm interested to know what you guys think. Do you guys worry that he's opening up the country to foreign investment a little too quickly without enough domestic economic protections in place? Or do you guys feel like economic protectionism stifles domestic growth to begin with? Let me know what you guys think. I'm super interested, and I'm super interested to see how this experiment plays out with Milei in Argentina. I really think it's cool to see somebody who's got the cojones to see a problem and step in and fix it with their own hands, man. That's really cool to see, dude. We got a little video intro to break everything down for us and let us know what we're getting into today.
This marks the first anniversary of the government of President Javier Milei of Argentina, a radical libertarian who came to power promising the most intense austerity program in Argentine modern history. And on that, he has delivered, with mass layoffs across the government and brutal budget cuts. That's taken its toll, with more than 50% of the population now in poverty, the highest rate in 20 years, and a deepening recession. But a year after he came to power, some Argentines are starting to see the benefits of his fiscal surplus, especially with regard to monthly inflation, which has been sharply dropping in recent months. The question remains, will Argentines actually end up seeing the full benefits of the economic revival that Milei had always promised would follow these painful cuts?
Yo, man, yeah, it's kind of wild, dude. Exactly what it means to go through the pain required to fix the economy, dude. It's interesting. And was that like a charity or some sort of government institution that was distributing those foods we saw that they were eating on that stoop? And that dude, that old guy who was jogging, he was jogging and jugging, man. That dude, that was funny to see, man. He was excited, yo. But man, no, I'm interested to see, man, because sometimes this is necessary. And I've heard from people in Argentina that responded to the last video. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you letting me know, giving me some context, that they knew this going in and that they voted for him specifically because they felt like it was time to deal with the pain that was necessary to turn things around. So I'm super interested to see what you guys think and how this is going to turn out with Argentina, man. Argentina exits recession and win for libertarian president Milei. Argentina has come out of a deep recession in a majority victory for the country's unorthodox president, Javier Milei, who spent the past year enacting sweeping and painful reforms in Latin America's third largest economy. The gross domestic product grew 3.9% in the July to September quarter compared with the previous 3 months. Argentina's statistics agency said Monday. That's intense. The agriculture and mining sectors drove the expansion, with the consumer spending also growing strongly. Oh, that's good. But manufacturing and construction suffered sharp declines in output. That is a very contradictory picture. What exactly does that mean, and what's going on right now to give that some context? The news of the economic rebound comes a year after Milei was elected on a ticket to tackle chronic hyperinflation and the overhaul of long-suffering economy. Oh, you know what I'm realizing? These manufacturing and construction industries might have been government subsidized before, and so they might be going through their own shock right now because government subsidies ended. Especially if it's like metals and steel and stuff. I just in my mind, to me, that's something that I could see governments focusing on, especially this last government that they're coming off of. I could see these industries going through a shock right now. The news of economic rebound comes a year after Milei was elected on a ticket to tackle chronic hyperinflation and overhaul of long-suffering economy. He slashed government spending, reducing high inflation and helping repair the economy's finances. But these measures have also pushed up unemployment and the poverty rate. The Economist has won praise from, oh my God, whatever, advertisement. Argentina's flagship Merval Stock Index, which tracks 24 of the country's most valuable listed companies, closed more than 7% higher on Monday. So far this year, the index is up 147% as investors have welcomed Milei's radical reforms. But I don't see the stock market as an indication of the economy. I would want to see other things, because in the U.S., you can have, and now all I know is U.S., right? You can have your individual life experience decline while the economy is increasing, oftentimes due to inflation. But they're tackling inflation. So without inflation being a measure of this, it is bearing more like a positive economic indicator. Milei inherited an economy in crisis, racked by hyperinflation that reached 211% last December, and which was fueled by the previous government's money printing to fund spending. Oh my God, the same issue that the U.S. is in right now. According to International Monetary Fund, the country's biggest creditor, he has delivered better than expected results. The IMF, which approved a bailout for Argentina in 2018, the fund's biggest ever, sees the economy shrinking by 3.5% overall this year, following a 1.6% contraction last year. Projected growth of 5% in next year will, in simple terms, just about reverse those declines. Right. Because this was necrotic tissue. This was essentially a massive infection that needed to be cut out, right? And so you decline the elements of the economy that are totally the byproduct of classist neoliberal garbage, right? And then you're able to replace that with real economic growth, right? And so people right now might be going through a hard time, over 50% poverty rate, but when things turn around next year, man, make it through, bro, because when things turn around next year and you guys start to build an economy that's on actual Austrian economic principles, man, you guys could have some real opportunities ahead of you, right? So it's not all bad news ahead. The economists say Milei's government must lift capital controls, which limit the flow of foreign currency into and out of the country, and free up the exchange rate still pegged to the dollar if it wants to attract meaningful investment into Argentina. More business investment is key to delivering sustained boost to economic growth and improving living standards, which will ultimately be necessary for Milei to enjoy ongoing public support for his party to win a big majority in midterm elections late next year. Which would probably be a big deal for his continued mandate for managing these economic reforms. If things stop now, and you get an alternative government in place that is the antithesis to this one, it could be really, really bad for the Argentinian economy. Let's see, man. Let's see, dude. We got something that's not the best news, but it's just some details on Argentina's poverty right now. Poverty in Argentina soars over 50% as Milei austerity measures hit hard. Far-right president has been battling inflation by imposing steep cuts in spending, resulting in widespread poverty. Argentina's poverty rate has soared almost 53% in 6 months of Javier Milei's presidency, offering the first hard evidence of how the far-right libertarians' tough austerity measures are hitting the population. The new poverty rate, reported by the government statistics agency on Thursday, is the highest level for 2 decades, when the country reeled from a catastrophic economic crisis, and means 3.4 million Argentinians have been pushed to poverty this year. Since taking office, self-described anarcho-capitalist who campaigned with a chainsaw in hand to symbolize the cuts he would make, slashed government spending in an effort to tame chronic inflation and eliminate budget deficit. But here's the one thing about this. From the Argentinians that I've heard from, they expected this completely, and this is necessary for cutting out necrotic tissue and allowing room to grow. Your economy. Well, I'm not here to say, I'm not the one to know, but it seems like the Argentinian economy has had a lot of stagnation that had to be dealt with, and that was in reality a burden on the quality of life. And so while this is a hard period of time and you're ripping the Band-Aid off, it allows you to go through and clean the wound underneath, guys. So his administration froze pensions, reduced aid to soup kitchens, cut welfare programs, stopped all public works projects. Tens of thousands of public employees have been fired. Reduced energy and transportation subsidies have pushed costs up, and purchasing power has been eroded. Interesting. That's interesting because we're also hearing since then, this was in September, we're hearing since then, actually, individual spending has increased. So we'll see. Maybe purchasing power has eroded. People might be spending more money because things cost more. But I think that what's going on right now is a necessary cut of necrotic tissue. And I think what we've got is a really great breakdown by the New Yorker from a more financial perspective of exactly why and what the principles are behind some of the policies he's enacting here, guys. The hurdles that Milei faces are formidable. Having ruled out implementing his policies by presidential decree, he will have to get them through bicameral legislature, dominated by the parties right and center left. Even if McCarthy's together with change, whatever. Given those political realities, he may struggle to push through his harsh austerity policies, which I don't think he really did at the end of the day. There are also serious questions about his signature policy proposal, dollarization. So he does want to dollarize the economy. His intellectual argument is straightforward. He claims the main root cause of Argentina's inflation problem is that the politicians of all parties, when faced with economic challenges, routinely resort to printing press. Abolishing Argentina's central bank and making the U.S. dollars the only legal currency would close off inflationary option and force the government to balance its books. But he did recently legalize all currencies. So if he's legalized all currencies, that might allow the population a workaround to not allowing dollarization, and Congress not allowing dollarization. So that might be where he's facing resistance right now. He was never able to get that dollarization in place. He might be facing resistance in Congress, in their parliament, specifically in that way. Abolishing the Argentine central bank and making the U.S. dollars the only legal currency would close off the inflationary option and force government to balance its books. 3 other Latin American countries, El Salvador, Ecuador, and Panama, have dollarized their economies, but they are much smaller than Argentina. Milei points to Argentina's experience in the early 90s when Cavallo, serving under President Carlos Menem, responded to hyperinflation by making the peso fully convertible and setting up a currency board to protect the peg. Within a couple of years, the inflation rate declined from more than 1,000% to less than 20%. Damn. Milei's only criticism of Cavallo's convertibility policy is that he kept the pesos in circulation and that it could therefore be reversed. I mean, yeah, that's true. And that happened in 2002 under his dollarization plan. Argentines would eventually have to swap all of their pesos for dollars. There are many potential problems with Milei's proposal, beginning with a very basic one. Right now, Argentina doesn't have enough dollars it would need to even dollarize its economy in the first place. Net foreign exchange reserves at the country's central bank are negative, according to the analysts, which means it owes more money in foreign currency than it possesses. Dollarizing without dollars is like saying you want the entire population to wear Nike sneakers, even though you don't make them and you don't have the resources to buy them. Alejandro Werner, a former senior official at the International Monetary Fund, remarked to Bloomberg a couple of months ago, "It's impossible." That's interesting. So maybe that's playing a role with him opening up the country to all currencies. That's how do you address that? How do you fix that? Emilio Ocampo, an economist and historian who is advising Milei, argues that the dollar shortage is more apparent than real. Argentines have more than 200 billion US dollars stashed away in safe deposit boxes or banks at home under the mattress, Ocampo wrote. This reflects spontaneous dollarization. Despite the stash of dollars, however, almost all experts believe that to make this plan work, Milei's government would need to borrow large sums of dollars from abroad. Milei, too, acknowledged this dilemma. If someone comes to give me $300 billion in cash, I can solve it in one day, he said. The Economist said in an interview, "If they don't give me $300 billion cash, I won't solve it in one day." Yo, I love how straightforward this guy is, man. Yo, he just says it. Why not, dude? Like, I love that guy. Where Milei could get where could Milei get the dollars he needs? Argentina already owes the International Monetary Fund more than $40 billion, most of which was provided during Macrai's presidency. As a result, getting the Washington-based lender to finance the dollarization plan seems like a long shot at best. In recent years, China has also supplied a lot of hard currency to Argentina, but Milei is a fervent anti-communist. He wants to align Argentina with the U.S. and Israel. He also says that he's considered converting from Roman Catholic to Judaism. Well, that's a very interesting variable in everything. Even if dollarization did not turn out to be feasible, it could prove disastrous over time. In the late 90s, when Cavallo's dollar peg was in place, the surge in the value of the dollar and therefore the peso contributed to Argentina's exports becoming uncompetitive in world markets. The economy is plunged into a deep recession. Capital started to flee the country. After Cavallo returned to office in 2001, a capital flight accelerated, and he eventually ordered the banks to limit cash withdrawals. In December 2001, riots broke out in Buenos Aires and other cities. Cavallo resigned. So did the president, Fernando de la Rúa. Shortly after that, Argentina defaulted on its debts and eventually abandoned the currency peg. It sounds like they could have dropped the currency peg proactively when they saw that they were no longer competitive from an export standpoint, right? I mean, it seems like their best bet is to manage the value of their currency somewhere between the dollar and the export's competitiveness. But there's got to be other variables involved in how competitive their exports are, right? I mean, like, it can't just be the value of their currency, right? So there's got to be a larger plan in place. It sounds like they really just weren't paying attention to a whole lot of things at that time to run into that kind of issue. The lesson was one that many Western governments learned in the decades after the First World War, when they insisted on restoring the 19th century gold standard. Rigid monetary regimes, though they may provide an effective counter-inflationary anchor, rob countries of the ability to respond to economic shocks, internal and external. Also, in abolishing the central bank, full dollarization would deprive Argentina of a lender of last resort, which would make its financial system even more fragile. Dollarization is a potentially perilous no-exit strategy. Well, that's interesting. I don't like how there's a central bank for every country, because central banks are private banks. They operate by charter, at least from what I've been able to research. I'm not a big fan of that. But so we got a lot of nuances here. So a lot of this has to do with how Argentina's exports relate to its GDP. Apparently, a lot of Argentina's GDP come from its exports, and that's how it maintains a competitive economy when it's under healthy conditions. So, it's very interesting, man. Let's see how this works. It sounds like maybe dollarization might not be the perfect answer. It sounds like, from what I've gotten from everything here, maybe what you're looking for is not quite dollarization, but yes, open up the country to any currency that people want to use. Right? Why not do that? If people want to individually dollarize, why not? And then on top of that, manage your peso in a way where you are staying as close as you can to the dollar in terms of a currency in order to keep inflation low, while also managing your competitiveness in terms of exports, while also paying attention to why would your exports not be competitive? What else is going on? Look, man, this is some interesting stuff, dude. There's a lot of different opinions about Milei right now, just like there's a lot of different opinions about Bukele going. And I got to get into that. I got to do a video about Bukele, see what's going on with him too. But yo, man, this is some interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys think. How do you guys feel specifically about, if you made it to the end here, I appreciate you. And let me know how you guys feel about dollarization. Do you think that what I'm saying makes any sense at all? Manage the value of the peso as much as you can close to the dollar to reduce inflation, while also managing the exports and paying attention to the dollar's value on the global stage, and making sure that you're not becoming uncompetitive as far as it comes to exports. Let me know what you guys think. This is some really interesting stuff. Dude, it is super cool that Javier Milei destroyed their recession. I mean, dude, can he talk to Trump? Can they have a conversation? Because it seems like Trump's got something he can learn from Javier Milei and everything going on over there, guys. Anyway, yo, if you made it to the end of the video, please, all of my videos are basically like this. I love getting into things, breaking things down, starting a conversation, right? Just pick anything in the comments. Also, I got a really varied background. I was running around in the street my whole childhood, got into a bunch of trouble. I made music about it, and I've always been this kind of big old libertarian, politics focused, and it made its way into my music. So if you think that would be an interesting combination in terms of music, check out my music, guys. Check out my music, please. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys in the next segment.